You're exposed to all sorts of violence.
It's bad.
I mean, you talk about the scar on your chin, but obviously there's an obvious one on your face.
Yeah, big
I assume
smile.
that's later on.
Yeah, it is, yeah. When I've gone to pick up the weed, thinking I'm going to score some cannabis, I've walked into an ambush, basically. 3 people from an area all around me. The one over here is looking behind me. And as I look behind, seen like a little bit of a flash. Thought he chucked a punch, but he never. He chucked a punch with a blade. Got told, you've been striped there, Boovy lad. We all know who you are now, coming to our gaff.
Basically, you've got a physical tag on you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. My dad used to say to me, this is my boy. He's a boof. I wasn't going to let people push me around.
So he was your protector.
Yeah, he was, to be fair.
And then he taught you to become your own protector.
Yeah, we did. My mum was my dad and my mum, without a shadow of a doubt. She was both of them. My dad's my dad, don't get me wrong. My mum was the battle axe of the family. They don't speak to me now for whatever reasons, love me from a distance and because of the choices and actions that I made.
That's hard for you then, Chris.
Yeah, it is. Don't know, LA. Do you know, like, when you sort of know that, I've caused a lot of chaos and carnage and stuff like that. And when you get told that it's better to love you from a distance, you have to sort of accept that.
You basically projected all of that anger onto this person when you were on.
100%.
But he was a bully anyway.
Yeah, and there was a few instances that happened when we was away, like hot water, sugar and jam, napalm, whatever you want to call it. Took his face off like a pork scratching, because I've never liked bullies. I've seen the dark side of bullying, like seeing one of your friends that you had dinner with the night before hanging from a part in his cell because he was getting bullied. There's a few scars, but to be fair, it's the ones you don't see, them are the ones that you have to worry about. I've got some pretty shit chapters in my book so far, and I'm not on about what I'm writing, I'm on about a life book. But the thing is, if you can somehow share them shit chapters, it can maybe be a part of somebody else having a better ending.
So welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you for having me on. I'm humbled and blessed to be here.
Thank you. Well, an angel. You've brought lovely Carla along as well.
She's over there.
She's over there reading a book. And it's lovely to meet people. I love it. And I've got to give a shout out to Danny Harkins, because he's sent me so many good men recently, and some of which have brought their good women. So I feel like Danny is single-handedly building a community right now.
Yeah, he is. He's an amazing guy. I'd recently done a podcast down with Craig Harrison, and I'll probably get to talk about it after. But there was something that was a revelation that was shared, and all that. And Danny managed to bring me from up there back down to here.
Wow.
So and he touched base with me. We touch base on a weekly basis. It's not every day, but after I had that news, he touched base with me more than what he usually does.
Oh, bless him.
So, he's a great guy. And Carla's got to meet him as well. So I said, you're coming down to meet them? She's like, oh my God. She met, she went, oh yeah, he's really nice, ain't he? So I told you.
And this is the thing, and I found it with all of you that I've met, be it Brad, be it Aaron, be it
all
you,
warriors.
Be it all warriors. And anyone that's seen you before has probably seen you on Terry Stone, James English being the biggest, and a few others that you've done, Talking Tradesman and a few others that you've done. And so people may have heard your story before. And I guess the reason that a lot of the men have come on this podcast, even though they've told the story maybe a few times, is because, as you know, and my listeners already know, that I am a psychotherapist that does the trauma work.
I was used to give me an hour's bloody session.
Yeah,
I was thankful for that.
But I love it.
Yeah,
it's not me giving you it. It's us sharing it.
Yeah,
because it's a moment for me as well. It's a privilege to find out about people, and I think one of the things that I said to you just a minute ago actually is, it's easy to judge people for their pasts.
100%.
And it's easy to label people, particularly if they've been in prison, which is part of your story. And just to make these assumptions. And actually, it's not until you stop and talk to someone, and it doesn't matter whether they're well known or whether it's just someone on the street that walks past you. We owe it to our fellow humans to give some time and to lend an ear. And I think this podcast hopefully does that, but with the perspective of trauma involved, and actually I may talk about that, I may not, it depends what comes up. But I also think it's really important for men to be able to talk about things in a way that helps other men. And I said to you today in the other room, I said, we need to get in, good men with real life experiences that have maybe come through some darkness, that are coming from a place of support and understanding, to be those warriors for other men.
Instill hope.
Yes.
That's what it is.
So that's what this is about too. It's not just the psychotherapy angle. It's about that. And I think
it's a massive word.
Yeah. And that, on your social media, that is what you're offering a lot. And I really like that. Yeah. Well, you do.
Yeah,
and I love
Thank
it.
you.
I think you're a really, really, really good human.
Thank you, Ella. I have really been looking forward to coming here for that, what you just said, basically, because it's more... It's not what's gone on and the past and that, where you have to touch on that. It's more behind the scenes, and that's what it's about. So everybody that I know and that I speak to that has come here, Aaron being one of them. When after the podcast we went to a friend's wedding do afterwards, and he came in and he was just, I spoke to him, we speak to each other after we do certain podcasts, and then sometimes you're like, oh, what did I say and stuff like that. You've always got them questions. Yeah. But when he came back from yours, it was a completely different vibe. He was just like, it's just nothing but good words. And you could see that he felt amazing coming away from that podcast.
Oh, he's such a beautiful soul.
Luckily, thanks be, obviously Danny done the little nudging for me and I'm sat in the chair now. So I'm thankful for it and for the people around me, to be quite honest.
I am, because I have been gifted so many beautiful experiences doing this, and it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like we're just, like if you went to meet someone for a coffee.
Yeah,
it just
that's
feels
how
like
it should
that.
be though.
Yeah,
then it's real.
Yeah,
it's like the first podcast when I went on and I did it with James, and I went in and I went, James, not being funny, he says, but I'm a little bit nervous, I says, because obviously on council estate, there's a few shopping trolleys on my dog walk and stuff like that. And I said, I've seen some of the people that you've done podcasts with, and I'm a little bit, and he's like, I won't do the accent, but in his Scottish accent, he's like, hi, brother, I'm council as well. And then straight away, I was just like, great. And then it just rolled off. So I do like to look at it. It's just a conversation, And then because if you go there thinking, you've got to impress 1 million people, you've got to do this and be worrying about what's coming out, it's not real.
No, it's true.
And then if it's not real, who can you really get through to?
That's so true. And let's talk about real. Just before we start, you had a very real experience before you even walked through the door.
Oh, my life. My life. I was just like, when I was walking, just come in then. There's a lady walking behind two people, we just say that, and her trousers is just getting slowly and slowly and slowly further down her backside. And all I'm going to say is she was just a normal lady.
A normal lady with her bottom on show.
Yeah, her bottom on show, so it was a bit we did have a bit of a giggle, but I look at that as just you coming in there with the good vibes.
You're coming in with the cheeky vibes, so to speak.
Yeah, straight away. It was quite
And do you know what? When Brad came last week, so it was Brad Donovan last week, and anyone that knows Brad, they know what he looks like, they know what he sounds like, they know his history. And he walked in, and the first thing he said was, it's a bit rough round here, isn't it, El? And I thought, if you're thinking that, Jesus Christ.
This doesn't present what's outside.
No,
that's all I'm saying.
It's a very different vibe.
Yeah, it is,
and,
definitely.
To give context, it's like an old Victorian street, and the clinic is like an old house. It's like a backstreet GP clinic.
Well, when we pulled up, the good lady was like, should we just take everything out of the car this time? I was like, you can have a bottle of Lucozade, but we'll take the phones.
I mean, you've got to laugh. It's not quite on brand, but it does.
Yeah, it does, yeah. But it's, like I said, this setting doesn't fit outside.
No, once you're in, and we're in the basement for those that don't know, so it's a bit of a cave.
It's amazing.
So just to give everyone the sort of feedback of where we are and what we're doing, but now we're going to move on to you.
Okay.
So I want you to imagine that you've never told the story before, and remember that I'm going to give a slightly different conversation. So you don't need to think about all the, I guess you don't need to think about all the harder details, like the maybe might be some violence and whatever, because we've got that with James. And I always say to people, if if they've been on Liam's or James, go and watch those episodes for the juicy bits, if that's what you're after. This is more about you as a person, as a soul, and the journey, I suppose. Okay. So let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay.
And tell me about the first feeling of identity. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I am Chris. What did you really feel about yourself? What's the earliest kind of
Well,
personality?
This will probably tie into later conversations, but really, when my identity was when my dad used to say to me, "This is my boy. He's a Booth. Here's my boy, little Booth." You know, and we'd go see because we're from circus stock and all the rest of it. And my granddad, not all the rest of it. That's just how I talk. My my granddad Harry Booth was the fighting man's king of the gypsies, all that type of stuff. We was showman travellers from the circus trade. Grandma's got pictures of her being with elephants, lions, bears, all types of animals. Then the animal courtly came in, so then you couldn't have all them animals on circuses. So now, as much as I still appreciate it, it's more acrobats and all that type of stuff. It's not a proper circus, you know.
Not the old school.
So probably from then, and then so that would have been my youngest time, and then my dad spent a lot of time incarcerated himself. So then my identity come probably when kids used to take the mickey out my dad being in jail. And I used to think, well, my dad said that I'm a Booth, and dad's told me not to let lads pick on me and all that type of stuff. So then that was become a part of my identity, maybe, that I wasn't going to let people push me around, because when they were pushing me around, my dad had his arm around me saying, "You're my boy," you know. And so
he was your protector.
Yeah, he was, to be fair.
And then he taught you to become your own protector.
Yeah, he did, as well as a lot of other nefarious things. But, but he did, yeah. There was always love in my house, without a shadow of a doubt.
So with that love, because often with a loving home, as the episode unfolds, you start to see that there was also shades of maybe some toxicity somewhere, or even things that just didn't quite make sense when you were a kid that you've now understood better. Were there other parts of that story as well?
Well, there was, like, even though there's love in the house, like, my dad wasn't, my mum would always give me a kiss and a cuddle and all that type of stuff, and could always remember mum tucking me into bed, and when because I used to have a problem wetting the bed and all that type of stuff, she'd come in and make out like it wasn't a drama, and I'd be like, really, oh, my bed's wet again. I was up till about the age of 7 or 8. But then my dad never really was, you know, I'd always try to give him a kiss or a cuddle and stuff like that, and he wasn't into all that.
Yeah.
He wasn't a kissy, he wasn't a cuddly. And I don't mean now at 45 years old. I mean when I was little. But I have got an understanding of that now later on in life, you know. I understand that Dad was in, you know, I'm a man of faith, but I'm not saying that all Christians, Catholics and that they're good people. There was some bad stuff that was going on in the children's homes back in the day, and my dad was a part of that. And because my dad was a part of what was going on, or they made him a part of it, that's why he finds it hard to get close to me being a man. So I have got that understanding, and it was more like
so he was abused, was he?
Yeah, he was, and in children's homes and stuff like that. And then, so I think then, because I don't know whether this is right, but he became a best mate rather than my dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was more best mate. He spent a lot of time in jail. So then when I was going to see him, it would be around the country somewhere, in the Renault 5 with my mum, the old school ones, red one, driving up and down the country to visit my dad. I always remember my mum just looking at, because she's a beautiful woman. She's still beautiful now. She's just a little bit older, but she's always been a really beautiful woman. I can remember on them visits days, just looking, and this sounds weird because it's my mum, but you just, as the lads would say now, my mum looked 10. She was beautiful, you know. And I can remember that, and I think because of that, and because my dad didn't spend a lot of time at home, when he did come out on prison home leaves, when I did go to visit him at the jail, he weren't going to be that man that was telling me start, you know, pushing down on me for misbehaving. It's more like, oh, how are you, my boy, blah blah blah, and he's more like wanted to create, even though it wasn't a happy place and maybe a safe space for him, because it's obviously jail, might have been safe but not happy. He wanted to make sure that time for me was happy. So then I think really that's just the start of him being more, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I do appreciate it. You become a best mate rather than my dad. And
so it's almost like you were on, maybe there wasn't like that hierarchy that you might have needed as a young person.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Definitely not. My mum, my mum was my dad and my mum, without a shadow of a doubt. She was both of them. My dad's my dad, don't get me wrong. My mum was the battle axe of the family, you know. I got into a lot of trouble and all that type of stuff, and there might have had a few people chasing me around the estate when I was younger, like grown men, because we've been causing mither and that on the estates. And my mum would just come out and she'd just deal with it. I can remember once we found out we would have got bloody pecked and clawed to death and all the rest of it, but there was a bloke on the estate and he was outdoorsy and he had kestrels in his back garden.
Wow.
So then we pulled all the fence panels away to try to get to these birds, not knowing we put our hands in there, they're probably going to end up with whatever happening to us. We're only kids. Pulled the fence panels off and the bloke's come out. He's in full like camouflage, you know, the hunting gear and all that. He's opened his gate, started chasing us, and all I can remember saying to my mate, God bless, he's not around no more, Danny, just get to my mum's house, I'll shout her, she'll sort us out, don't worry, she'll save us, Danny. So we're running, little kids now, this man's behind us. All I've seen is my mum just literally go behind the front door, that's where she used to keep the baseball bat. She's come out and just dealt with the bloke there and then, just straight on the street. Every single school that I got kicked out of, there was a lot of them. She would always be there, fight in my corner, you know. She'd like, even though we was like a one parent family for a long time, because obviously dad was away and stuff, she'd do like 13, 14 hours in the factories to make sure that I could still, you know, still have like half decent clothes on my back and stuff like that.
What a woman.
She is an amazing woman, and they don't speak to me now for whatever reasons, you know, love me from a distance and because of the choices and actions that I made. But
that's hard for you then, Chris.
yeah, it is. It is hard, but like you gotta like, don't know, LA, do you know, like when you sort of know that I've caused a lot of chaos and carnage and stuff like that, and when you get told that it's better to love you from a distance, you have to sort of accept that.
That's the hardest thing, acceptance.
Yeah, it is.
It's the key to freedom, actually.
Yeah.
People talk about forgiveness a lot, but I think acceptance is the key to freedom. However, I explained to you earlier about the cellular system.
Yeah.
And how we've got 50 trillion cells. Actually, we've got more, but some of them are like bacteria cells. So let's say 50 trillion cells or thereabouts. All of those cells have a memory.
Yeah.
So you've got 50 trillion little memories, right? On top of that, the way the brain operates is every time we have a thought, I know you've heard this before, but every time we have a thought, there's an electrical pulse that brings two neurons together that creates this thought. That becomes a pathway with repetition. Every single thought we have creates a chemical cascade of emotion. The emotion becomes like embedded and imprinted like a sat-nav, a cellular software, if you like. Okay. That then runs the 95% unconscious. That then becomes identity. Identity is what we emit as the energy into the field, the electromagnetic field, into the atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. So people feel us before they know us. So that's why sometimes you can meet someone and within...
They feel us before they know us.
Yeah. And that is sometimes why you know immediately that you're just going to get on with someone.
Oh yeah. I'm with that because of I've got an understanding of what you're saying there is. So then when you're in the system and you're on the landings and you're around all these other people, you sort of have to be, and I don't like to use the word judge, but you have to be a good judge of character. Yes. You have to be, because some of these people ain't who they're saying they're meant to be. So you've got to listen to what you're saying is going on there.
That intuition.
And be able to trust that intuition.
Yeah.
To be able to keep
Because
yourself
it will tell
safe.
you.
Yeah, it
your
does,
intuition. I mean, I always say this about AI, actually. AI will never be intuition. It can never do intuition.
Okay.
So as much as it can look like it replicates almost every other human thought and process, it cannot do intuition. That's why humans will always be AI.
Yeah.
So just for anyone that's worried about that particular subject. But
get that out there.
Yeah, get that out there now. But for you with your energy now, to give context for those listening or watching, beautiful energy. Both you and Carla, the second I see you.
She's a lovely lady.
You're lovely lady. really beautiful energy.
Thank you.
So I have to take you as I find you.
Yeah.
And so even though I know some
But
of
yeah,
the
if
story,
only everybody else was like that.
I know. Well, that's partly what's wrong with the world.
Yeah, and it just everyone's a troll part time.
Yeah, it's so true. So when you're with someone and you feel their energy and you just go, well, that's all that matters right now, because that's all we've ever got anyway.
Yeah.
Only ever got right now.
Yeah.
When you hear then that someone has to accept to be loved by afar, when actually, yes, people should have boundaries, people should have guardrails, people should put things in place to protect themselves. But I also think we can get stuck in a rigid pattern of thinking because someone did something really bad or because someone did us wrong. And sometimes, I'm not saying we forgive everybody, because that would be not necessarily the right thing.
No.
But sometimes it's sad when I'm listening to that to think, the mum that got the baseball bat to look after you and stand up against a man in camouflage gear.
And to be fair as well, like sometimes my head does go back there, but I have to pull myself away from it, because like when I just know what my mum's about, and I know she's full-time family, and I know that she'd forgive me for a lot of things, you know. So then because the reason that, you know, you've been sort of like put on a shelf or put in bloody quarantine or whatever, family quarantine, and we're just going to come and we'll get the gossip over everyone else, find out what you're up to. Yeah, we heard up what he's getting up to. It's amazing. And thanks be my two kids, 24, 29, they got an amazing relationship with their grandma and granddad. So it does get passed down, but I just think like, Mum, man, just have me round for some dinner.
Yeah.
But then recently, so then there was a lot of unpeacefulness, if that's even a word, but unrest inside me because of that situation. And then like one of my biggest goals was since I've been out, was to get back to that family table, have the Sunday dinner, have the conversation with my mum and my dad, and to say, look, I know, blah, blah. I've done the DVDs from jail. I've done the letters from jail. I've sent messages. I've sent fucking pigeons and smoke signals, all that type of stuff, letting them know how I feel and like my sorries. And then so there was a lot of unrest there, because that was my biggest goal. And then so I went to Craig Harrison's podcast the other week down in Eastleigh, and I'm originally a Pompey boy, so I'm from Portsmouth. I love the sea. Can't swim for shit, but I love the sea. All my happiest memories are down there. All my uncles are down there. All my cousins are down there. My grandma Shirley, the circus lady, she's 90 now. She's down there. Just every memory that I've got growing up of family is in Portsmouth. So then went to Eastleigh, obviously met up with Danny, done the podcast with Craig, which was amazing. And I thought I'd go see my grandma. So I went to see my grandma, and we're having conversations. She's got all the old books. So I told Carla about the pictures, and she's like, oh yeah. So I know she believes me, but I wanted to see the pictures as well. So grandma's got the pictures down. One's of me going through all the albums and that. And there's pictures of all the other kids when they're born. So then, I didn't think nothing of it, but now I sort of know what grandma's game. Oh, well, I feel I know. I might be wrong, and if I am, I'm sorry, grandma. But going through all the pictures and all the rest of it, and then my cousin Freya and Carla go outside to have a vape and all the rest of it, so sat out in the back. And my grandma's there, and I'm talking to her, and she asks me, because my grandma's a faith lady as well, and she says to me, Chris, so what denomination are you? Because grandma's she's one of the witnesses, you know. She's up there, she's one of the witnesses, but she believes in Jesus and all that. So I'm not getting into all that, but she's one of those. So I'm talking to her and says, well, grandma, says, I'm not Pentecostal, I'm not Jehovah's, I'm not Orthodox, I'm not this, I'm not that. Says, I'm just a servant. I'm just a servant of the Lord. I says, and I'm talking about it a bit, and then I said, one thing I do know, 100%, is that Jesus can change a man's life. And then we're talking a bit more, and we're talking about forgiveness, and we had the conversation about forgiveness and about parents loving me at a distance. I can never understand that, Chris, and I'm in a southern accent, blah, 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 and all that type of stuff. And then she said, I never understand why your mum never told you, Chris. And I was like, what do you mean, grandma? And she's gone, I just don't understand why she's never told you that, Christopher. So I says, all right, Grandma. I says, what do you mean? She says, never told you who your real dad is. So then I was like, I sort of knew this because there was a birth certificate that I found when I was like 14 years old. And somehow I was born in 1981. I wasn't registered till 1984. I'm always been told I was born in Portsmouth. This birth certificate says Norfolk and Norwich on it. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And I said, I fired a few questions. Some of them questions might not have been projected in the right way. I might have been that 14-year-old lad that, saying it in certain ways and all the rest of it. So it wouldn't have come out nice. And just got told that obviously paranoid and all that. So then I always knew in myself about this. But then I didn't want my grandma to know that she's just shared the biggest family revelation that I've known, but I didn't want her to know that I didn't know. So I said, I've always known, Grandma. And I sort of went down at the side of her chair and spoke to her. She's obviously draped in gold. She's getting smaller as the years goes on. She's lovely. Pictures everywhere. She's basically still in a trailer, but it's in a flat. There's pictures everywhere and all that type of stuff. With all the family, bloody animals and all sorts of, not live animals, but ornaments of animals and that everywhere. And she says, how did you know? I said, because Mum's got 2 tattoos on her arm. I said, she's got Mark on this one. And then she's got Christopher on this one. I says, but the R in the Mark and the R in the Chris, they're exactly the same. He says, so if they're the same and my name's on there and this man's name's on there and it was done at the same time and it was done at a young age, then why isn't the name Steve and Chris? Yeah. Stephen even and Chris. And then I always got told that was just a friend. And when I said the name Mark to my to my grandma, she went, oh, Mark then. And then she went, no, comment on the situation. So then, obviously I'm sat there and I've got all this emotion going on inside me, but I don't want to show Grandma this emotion because I don't want her to be affected by what she's just told me. But I'm really thankful for it. And then what I believe happened there is, so we both believe that, myself and my grandma, we both pray, whether it be from different denominations and all that type of stuff. And like, God knows some of the deepest, darkest things that goes on in my heart, Ella. And he knows the stuff that's been causing me shit for fucking nearly 3 decades.
Yeah.
Not knowing but not knowing but knowing. So then I'm in a conversation about God, and some people, they get scared of the word, but that's where the conversation come from. And then my grandma decided to share that with me. So then we're on the journey on the way home, and I'm going through every emotion because I didn't say this to my best mate. I said, oh no, it's all right, blah, blah, blah. But my best mate now, he's marrying one of my best mates. He's marrying my sister. So then he spends a lot of time with my dad, like card nights, the sneaky bottle, the Jack Daniels that Mum doesn't know about comes out and all that type of stuff. And it's been that way since we was 14, 15. When I was in jail, he moved into the house and all that type of stuff. So he's basically like another son to my dad. And I shared with my mate, I said in the jail cell about this and said, I don't think my dad is my dad. And, oh, fucking hell, Chris, you can't think that. I said, no, I says he's tattoos and all that. And it didn't end up being Mark. It's someone else I found out since. That was just my head playing games with me because of tattoos. And I felt, I shared this with you when we was in Young Offenders, and I told you how it made me felt, and you seen me crying when I said it to you. And then you've known this, or I know you've known it for at least a decade, or I felt you knew it for more than a decade. So then I felt that he fucking betrayed me. Because even though he's close to my dad, even though he's marrying my sister, inside I felt that he betrayed me. So then what happened then is that I went through, in the car on the way home, obviously Carla's driving me out, I've gone through bitterness, I've gone through resentment, but even when I was feeling bitter and the resentment, there's still like a rage inside me. So I won't go into where my head went because it's not a nice situation. But I wanted to go see my best mate, someone that I love, and I fucking like I do genuinely love him, but like how you should love a brother. but I was like fully prepared to do like bad shit to him, like bad shit. I was gonna and just say, look, now you can carry that weight because you've known about the weight that I was carrying, and you haven't told me, brother. So like, I know what's happened, and I know that you're gonna have to go get sorted out and go get whatever at the hospital, but you got to carry that weight now because now I'm passing it down to you. So then I'm in that way in the car, and like,
this is only a few weeks ago, isn't it?
Yeah, I think maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. And then I'm in the car and I'm like this, and I'm thinking, fucking hell, I just need to let somebody else know. So then, obviously, I just done the podcast with Danny. I don't like the idea of like, just to go back to like with my friends, like to have someone that you actually love and you care for like that, and then you feel that you've been betrayed, but then that betrayal then takes you down the road if you really want to fucking hurt this person, you know, and you know that you're probably going to do it and you're probably going to regret it afterwards, even if it is right or wrong, what the situation you think's going on. So I would message Danny, and then he's rang me back, because I just messaged him, says, I've had some family revelation and all that type of stuff. And then the next thing, he's telling me about 2-second decisions. And like, he's saying, well, listen, and he said a few things, and he said, you're big on this 2-second decisions and not letting it, you know, you pick up the pieces a week, a month, a year, and that afterwards, which is right. That's what a 2-second decision leads to. And it's all right me trying to say to other people, but at this point I was going to make that 2-second decision, bearing in mind the 2-second decision would have been a 3-hour journey home, but as soon as I hit Telford, it would have been a 2-second situation and decision. So then after talking to him then, sort of like piked me down a little bit, and then I looked at Cara and I was like, that's just mad. I said, out of all the people that I thought, you know, that I'd ring, you know, that all the people I ended up, I messaged Danny's rang me back, and then he's ended up sort of like bringing me back down and making me not make a bad decision, which is quite, I know Danny on a different level, I know he's an amazing guy, but then people wouldn't expect him to be bringing me down off a 2-second decision, you know. So then got home, and basically then I fucking went all MI5 on it. It consumed me for about 2-3 weeks, to the point where I'm all over finding out birth certificates. Got my original birth certificate, it wasn't Booth. It had another name on it, so then I was adamant this guy's name was Mark and the last name was Cutting. So then I looked at Mark Cutting and I thought I found him. I've even gone to the point where looking at pictures saying he's got the same nose, he's got the same eyes, and then because I know how these, now I've not got an awareness now at 45 about a little kid when they're fantasising who the dad is, and they might think they're a spaceman or they're this and that, because that's what you do, you fantasise about it. And I was there at 45. And it robbed me of my peace to the point where, not like badly, but there was a little bit of whatever at home. I wasn't the same person at home. I wasn't the same person when I was doing stuff that I do outside of everything else, like Breath of Life, the talking circles. I wasn't going to none of the Breath of Life events because I couldn't go there because I felt I had too much going on by myself. And
you withdrew?
Fucking totally, man, because I felt like I've been betrayed, Ella, man. It's like...
Well, it is a betrayal.
You know, it's like... So when I pulled him up about it when I was 14, I was told I was lying. And then there's other stuff as well, and you know, when you're younger and that shit, and, oh, that never happened. I know it happened. I remember and all that. So when you're getting told that you're lying and then you find out it's the truth, then you think, what else are they lying about?
Yeah, your trust goes.
Yeah, so then got to pull myself away from it. And then what I just got... In the end, what pulled me through is, and what took me out of the dark place and brought me back to normal now. To my head does go back there a bit now, because I found out who my real dad was. His name was Richard Cutting, and he's no longer around. So then that's acceptance. God. Yeah, about 5 years ago. So that, I've had to accept that. But really, my dad is the person that brought me up. No question of that. My dad is back in Telford, and his name is Stephen Booth. But there was another part of me out there somewhere where I might have been and get some answers. You know, he might have been a bad person when mum was with him, but then that was when he was 16 years old. Yeah. Yeah, and then all of a sudden I get uprooted, my name's been changed 3 times, and all of a sudden I'm a Booth, you know, which I am a Booth. I'm not saying I'm not. My dad is my dad. He brought me up. He was there through all the chaos, all the carnage, all the addiction, everything else that come with it. Come to visit me in jail, give me the odd cheeky handshake, and I go back with something nice in myself and all that type of stuff. But
he was your father. He was your father. So we've got dads that are biologically available to us, shall we say. And then we've got fathers who do the job. And doing the job of a father, even though he had his own history where he was abused himself as a child and he wasn't able to fully bond. Perhaps some of that is because he knew he was keeping a secret from you as well.
I think so.
And then, but he did do, largely speaking, he did the role of a father. And I think the most important thing in all of this is it's difficult because you have been betrayed. There is a betrayal. We have to digest that and metabolize that and understand that. But equally, as you said, you were in a house where you felt loved.
Yeah.
And there's this, I use this word a lot, there's like a juxtaposition where one foot is in the space of betrayal and one foot is in the space of, but he did do those things as a father should. And so you've got this two experiences going on at the same time. And what's important to say here is that our unique experiences, we'll go back to intuition here.
Okay.
Our unique experiences, be it the stuff that we remember explicitly, so we can recall those memories.
Yeah.
The stuff that happens implicitly. So you're going to hold implicit memories. These are the stuff you can't always remember, but you know happened.
Yeah.
Where you will have memories of before Stephen Booth becomes your dad. Even if you can't remember all of them fully, they're there. And they might be glitching at the minute, but there's implicit memory storage. So your subjective lens, i.e. the way that you view the world, not just now, but when you were growing up, is through implicit, explicit memories, as well as experiences, as well as the environment. So the way that you become and the person that you are, and I spoke to you earlier about the genetic expression and genetic coding. Yeah. The coding or the genetic expression gets switched on because of environment, because of your experiences, or it can lay dormant. So everything you are, everything you became, yes, you've got to take responsibility for some of the stuff that we haven't covered yet, but we will, the bit where you go into prison and all of that stuff. Everything you became and everything you are now is a result of all of it.
Thank you. Yeah.
And so the good and the bad, if you like, the dark and the light, and this juxtaposition that you're in now of betrayal, but also I've got these memories of love, it's confusing for you, Chris. And you're going to take a while to be able to fully, like I say, fully digest and metabolize this, because betrayal trauma is a really difficult trauma to deal with, because it literally feels like someone's pulled the foundations of your life beneath you. And then to find out that your biological dad is no longer here, it's like all the pieces of the puzzle aren't fitting properly.
But then what happens then is, when that information comes from your mum, who's then lied about this for so many years, so then you get told, oh, well, no, actually, his real dad's name isn't Mark, it's Richard, but then he passed away 5 years ago, and there's a house you found out and all that type of stuff. And you just sit back and think, do I need to do more investigating now, because is mum telling the truth?
Yes.
So what I had to do then is just have the acceptance that Dad is it who brought me up.
Yeah.
There was somebody else out there, and it was however it was, because otherwise it would just totally, because the person I am, I go in on stuff.
Very obsessive.
Obsessive. So then what's going to happen is it's just going to rob me of my peace. It's just going to rob me of my peace, and not just my peace. It's going to rob me of everyone else's peace around me, because I won't be that person that I'm meant to be, because I'm concentrating on that full time. So then how I had to pull back my peace and bring it back to my fucking table was to have the awareness that it doesn't change my values. It doesn't change my morals. It doesn't change what I want to get up to. It's just a chapter, it's just one of the chapters. I'm not proud about some of my past, and there's never been nothing bad that happened to women or kids or nothing like that. I've been in some murky and horrible situations. I'm not proud of all that, but I am proud. And I don't like to use that word. I am proud of the person and the man that I'm becoming.
Why don't you
every
like
single
to use
day.
that?
I just don't, because I like the word thankful rather than proud.
No, pride is a really important thing to feel. Because it's so important to, if you think about the animal kingdom and think about silverback gorillas for an example, like they don't have to have this human interruption of, oh, I shouldn't say that, or I shouldn't think that.
No, yeah, just get on with it.
They just get on with it.
So I'm blocking it, aren't I?
Yeah, so that's exactly it. You're suppressing pride. Why should you? Because I felt proud of you just now. Only 4 to 5 weeks ago, you truly found out that your father is not your biological father, your dad. So although you think of him as your dad and all of those things, that's a short period of time away from where we're sitting right today, yeah? And you have literally told that story and then spoken about acceptance and then spoken about, look, it's going to rob me of my peace. You've really quite quickly come to the conclusion of what you should do. You should feel proud of that. Like, there's no doubt about it. That is something to feel really proud of. Why the hell shouldn't you? Because if we don't celebrate that in you, how is any other man supposed to sit here and listen and celebrate it in themselves? You got to celebrate pride.
No. And then with what it done as well, it did bring me some peace, because now I do understand, as well as what I said about why Dad wasn't a kissy huggy, which I appreciate and I understand that, but he wouldn't have wanted to put his hand on another man, not like that, give me a good beating when I was misbehaving. He wouldn't have really wanted to do that, because I wasn't. Now I've got the understanding why he was a best friend and not a dad. And what it has done is brought me, so first off, it brought me nothing but unrest, and it wasn't peaceful. But now it's brought me peace, because, and then this might sound a bit however, but it's the truth. I don't want to go around there for Sunday dinner no more. I don't want to go through that front door, you know. So now it's my turn. Yeah, I didn't want to love from a distance. I wanted to be loved and to be sat at the table, because it's my family, Ellie. But now I can love from a distance, because that's what it's gifted me. So now we're in the same boat now. And I know it's not tit for tat and all that.
But that's how you genuinely feel.
That's how I genuinely feel. Like before, my goal was I just come on. Mum said, yeah, stay out of jail a year and then we'll have it around 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And then there's 5 years before that I was in jail that never supposed to. It's been a decade where I've been clinging on to, and I always say where there's hope, there's light. There is. But and I stand by that. And that hope was keeping me going.
But the light's in you. Don't forget that.
At first, you know, when I got out, that was a big part of what I was getting up to. One, because I know it's something that, you know, giving back and educating, like, not educating, but being a part of the process of awareness and understanding, you know, for other men, for kids, and just for people in addiction and all that type of stuff. I knew it was in me because I lived it. So then but then there's always that, oh, I know Mum and Dad would be happy about it. But now I'm like, it's brought me peace in the sense where I haven't got that in front of me now, you know. But I'm able to love at a distance, you know. I'm able to be comfortable about that. So then what that's done then is it's cleared up a bit of space up here for me to be able to put brain on other stuff now. And at the same time, it's given me some awareness and understanding that my emotions can trigger real bad things sometimes, you know. Like
dark thoughts.
Yeah, man. And look, I haven't really had no dark thoughts about getting up to anything for a long, long time. But then all that, it just triggered everything, because then it was betrayal on top of betrayal. And there was best friends, there was dads. It was just like one big drama, but it wasn't a drama. It was a fucking true story. But then part of the story wasn't true, because it was my story I was putting to it. So then when I eventually got in contact with my best friend, and I asked him, I just said to him on the phone, I said, look, I says, we need to have a conversation, but we've got to have it face to face. I says, I'm going to ask you some questions when you come. I don't want no bullshit. And I said his name, and he went, I think I already know what you're going to ask. Yeah, so then when I did ask him, and I do believe what he said, because I've grown up with him since my group of best mates, brothers, we've been together since he was 10, so it's 35 years friendship, you know. There's about 7 or 8 of us, a few of us have passed, there's a couple that will never see the light of day again and all that type of stuff. But then, so we pretty much know each other. And when he said it, he was like, I didn't. He says, I knew. He says, but not because the way that you think. Your dad didn't tell me. Your dad was in hospital. There was some conversations about next of kin. I heard your mum say some stuff. Then I put two and two together. Tattoos on the arms and the conversation. And then I just known. So I can't expect him to tell me that. That, you know, because
why didn't he tell you? Because I'm not suggesting that it would have been easy, because that is a horrible position to find yourself in. I think most people would struggle with that on some level, whether people would keep it from you or not. You know, again, I've never been in that situation, so I daren't say what I would do. But, you know, most people would really struggle with finding out, how do I tell my best mate, Chris, that his dad isn't his dad? What was his reason for not telling you?
Well, one, because it hadn't been brought to the table since I hadn't brought it to him since the prison cell when I said to him. He then went back to my dad after the prison cell thing. He said my dad got emotional. And I thought then he got emotional because obviously he was thinking, oh, why does he think that? Of course I'm his dad. But I think he got emotional because he actually knew that I knew then at a young age. And from 14 then, I was getting up to I was a bit naughty kid anyway, you know, but and I got up to a few bits and bobs, but it really started to take a big course to about 14, 15, obviously locked up at 15. So for that age of 13, 14 is quite the change was happening. And I think before, so when Dad was in hospital, that would have been probably 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I was just going back into the system. And I don't think that he would have thought it would have been safe. I haven't actually asked him, to be honest.
Well, that's probably a good theory.
Because like when you live in that life of, sometimes in the life of, when you're in deep entrenched in addiction, like you do have them thoughts that you don't need to be around no more. So then sometimes if I had information like that, it's like, horrible as it sounds, I would have looked at that as a get out card.
Yes.
Buzzing. I'm glad wouldn't have thought buzzing. When I was in them deep dark spaces, I would have been, well, that's the reason that I'm doing it. And I would have justified what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have took the accountability and, you know, the ownership of me being the person I was. I would have blamed it on someone else, and I would have with a chance that I wouldn't be here now. So then I feel that I wasn't told then.
Because it was dangerous.
Because it was dangerous to tell.
I just want to say something to this point as well. And this may or may not have been a thought you've had already. Probably is. I did a podcast with Johnny Nelson, the boxer.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of years ago now, I think it was. And he spoke about the guy that brought him up. That wasn't his biological dad. Both his biological dad and the dad that raised him are dead now. Oh. And I think he found it quite difficult because they died within a really short period of each other. And he spoke about the guy that raised him, and he was so he loved that guy. And that was his main man, like the man that he wanted to be, really, I think, because he said he didn't have to love us. I think there was maybe 4 or 5 siblings. He didn't have to love us. He did it because he wanted to, not because it was his biological duty. He didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing. And okay, in Johnny's situation, there isn't a lie.
Okay.
And you were lied to, and there's a betrayal. So that's separate to what I'm saying here. But essentially, Stephen, he chose to be your dad.
Yeah.
He chose you. And I'm not saying that it was... And this is a guy who had been raised in care homes, who had been abused, who found it difficult to love by all accounts. And yet he chose you, and he wanted you to be a Booth, and he called you his little Booth, and he made you his best friend. So as much as, this is why I say you've got this juxtaposition of betrayal and love, as much as you were lied to and you have been betrayed, I think we've always, it's what I said to you earlier about the subjective lenses, again, our reality is how we observe it. Einstein said that. He said, reality is just the observer's lens. Okay. So if we observe betrayal and betrayal full stop, and we don't look up, maybe my best friend didn't tell me because he thought I might do something stupid. Maybe Stephen chose to love me and they didn't want to tell me because they didn't want me to know I wasn't his. They thought it was best for me to think I was his.
Yeah, I think that is what they wanted.
Yeah, and as much as you can love from a distance now, I think it's really important to take There's this exercise I do with my clients, right?
Send it me.
I'm giving it to you now. And it's just this, we usually do it in a slightly hypnotic state. So I'll put them into that hypnotic state first, which is, for those people that have never gone into it, it's just a deep relaxation. Okay. So the brain waves have slowed down significantly, but you're still awake. And I get them to imagine that they're watching a scene of their life on a cinema screen. And they're in the first row of the cinema. And they watch it, and the watcher in the first row is experiencing the emotion of watching themselves. Then I get them to go back a couple of rows, and instead of being the watcher, they're like the witness, but the witness is only watching the watcher. It's not looking at the screen. Okay. So we're starting to peel back the layers of self. And then again, 2 or 3 rows back, we go to the awareness. So the awareness part of you is much more just observing. It's not really analysing, it's just observing. And it starts to feel less and less emotionally attached to the original emotion that's on the screen. Okay. And then we go to the controller of the projector. So imagine you're in the cinema screen. The projector is projecting this scene.
The last port.
Yeah. So you're projecting, when you first find out about this scene of I'm at unrest, I've been betrayed, I've got these dark images of what I want to do to my best friend. But the projector goes, well, with the awareness and the witness and the watcher, we can see actually if we come away from the emotion, let's change the scene. Let's look at maybe my best friend didn't tell me because he thought I might take my life. Let's look at maybe Stephen.
That was the truth of it.
Yes. So we've got these different lenses. Maybe my parents didn't tell me because they thought it was the wrong thing to tell me, that they would hurt me too much. And because I was troubled at 14, 15, it might have sent me off the rails even more. Who knows? The point is you get to observe what you want to observe. Your reality is what you choose. This is where I say it's the Matrix. And if you're going to live in the Matrix...
Big say.
Yeah. If you're going to live in the Matrix, design it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, don't let that emotional brain rule, because the 2-second thing. Don't let it rule. Because the emotions are based on this animalistic perspective. Sometimes we need that, by the way. But I think in this case, it's too complex. You know, it's too complex. And so what you've already done by explaining what you've explained is you've already said, look, I've chosen to love from afar. I'm at peace with that at least. But I think it's important to remember that in any family system, whatever the trauma, whatever the truth, whatever the lie, there's always everyone's perspective. And everyone's perspective based on subjective reality is going to be what they thought was best. Sometimes it's selfish reasons, sometimes it's not. But it doesn't change the power of who you are and the light of who you are.
So then, would my grandma's reason for telling me after we were speaking and what we were speaking about, and there was these words, forgiveness was mentioned, and how there wasn't any on the one side with mum and dad, which is for whatever reasons, then her lens would be her reason for letting me know that, because I believe she wanted to bring me peace, Ella.
Yeah.
100% she wanted to bring me some peace. And like when you just said then about dad, he is the man that brought me up, but I just think if we could just have a conversation, and that, like, you know, if I could just say to him, look, obviously you're not my dad, but you are my dad. Just how I talk to him, like we do, mates. It don't make no difference. I just wish you would have fucking told me years ago.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When I it's fair enough, Dad. When I was 14, and then I was getting involved with whatever, and then in my 20s, addiction came, so it would have been the worst time to tell me. But it's been 10 years now, 5 years in the system, 5 years on the outside. You know what I've been getting up to, you know? You could have just let me know, instead I have to find out.
Do you know what? It's just occurred to me this and again, I'm just playing with ideas as we sit here. Could it be that in the last 10 years they kept you at a distance because they felt so much guilt and shame about the fact that they were lying?
I've had this conversation with somebody else as well, and we did have that conversation, yeah. But then when Mark...
It doesn't excuse it, by the way,
yeah,
Chris, because your feelings are so
I know
hurt.
that. I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
When I spoke to Mark, he said Mum was a bit took aback by how he found that out with my birth certificate and that. And then he said, like, because Dad's a bit poorly, he came into the kitchen mid-flow conversation. Mark's tried to get round there before the old man gets up, have a word with the boss first, being my mum, tell her, and then it goes wherever it goes after mum. Dad walked in and he said Dad didn't look like he was fucking like whoa about it, but you could tell it bothered him.
Yeah.
So then Mark said, everyone calls my dad Geezer. So Geezer, what Chris did say is that you're his dad, and you brought him up, and he's thankful for everything, and all that type of stuff. But he does know that you're not his dad. So then I just felt at peace because it's not a fucking lie no more.
Yeah.
I'm not a part of a lie.
Yeah.
I'm not. It set me free.
Yes.
And then from that and then I just felt like, now I wasn't paranoid when I was 14. I know it was right. The same way. There's a few things, man. There's been when I was young, when I was little. There was an incident that happened with a female babysitter, and I had some horse that was on a wheel, and there was abuse and that happened then, and when I took
How old were you then?
I would have been about. I was 6 years old. I can remember the Christmas after, and I would have still been in Portsmouth then, in Lee Park. And then there's an incident where I had my horse thing, so I'd have my little pants and stuff on. And I'd have to get my horse, go around like the square of the front room. Obviously remember so because it's mum and dad's house. And all the king's horses, all the king's men. And then every time I passed I believe it was my babysitter at the time. Every time I passed my babysitter, she'd make sure that I'd done stuff to her body parts. Yeah. So then, I spoke to my mum and dad about this, and I said...
How old were you when you spoke to them?
About, would have been 16, 15, same sort of age when I found out about the bloody birth secret. Same, it might have been a bit before, might have been 12 or 13. Because my dad's been very much... he don't mind talking and telling stories and stuff like that. So we might have a night where, what's your oldest memory? What's the worst thing you've ever done? And just like the little conversation starters. But it won't just be me. There'll be loads of lads around the table because he gets on with all the lads. And I would have said that to him, and I would have said to him when we're going through the photo albums, who's that lady stood on the balcony there, Dad? Because I remember that was the lady. And he went, oh, no, that's just Fingy. She used to look after you, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right. And I know this is going to sound... At one stage, I actually questioned myself whether it actually happened to me or whether I was doing something.
Yeah.
But then, and then where my head went, and it sounds, this is just where your head can go. I then questioned myself whether the person on the sofa was my mum or my babysitter.
Yeah.
Not the fact that my mum's going to think me, but that I was one of them young lads that's then playing, and then all of a sudden I'm going past and there's boobs and there's bits and that there, and I was doing all that. But then I know my mum's body shape.
Yeah.
And this lady's top half is completely like 3-4 sizes bigger than my mother's shape. So it wasn't my mum.
Yeah.
So I know it was the babysitter.
Yeah.
But then because of how you read things, you think, no, did it happen? Didn't it happen? But I know it did.
Yeah.
And then when I speak to her about my parents, I get told that never happened. Oh, no, you did have a babysitter then. So I did have a babysitter, and I could see in the pictures she looks the same shape. Bearing in mind she's got clothes on now, but she looks the same shape. So I'm putting all the pieces together and being told it never happened again. And then the birth certificate thing. So then,
how would they know it didn't happen? Because you wouldn't know because they weren't there.
Because I'll tell you what I do believe. I believe that later on they found out that stuff was going on with other kids. That's what I believe.
And they didn't want you to think it had happened to you.
And they didn't want to sort of take on board that they had this person looking after me.
And they didn't want to take responsibility for the choices they made.
Thank you. So then instead of taking responsibility for the choices that they made,
they just pretended it didn't happen.
It's a lie. It never happened.
Because they couldn't deal with the guilt.
Yeah.
But hang on a minute. We can't stop here because this is one of the things that really annoys me. Actually, is that when a girl is abused by a man or a woman, we go, oh God, that's awful. When it's a boy that's sexually abused by a woman,
I say, oh, I bet you love that.
yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
that's what people do.
Fucking well, other men do say that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
to be fair.
actually, you've got to remember this. This is so key. A child is a child. A 6-year-old is a baby. And the thing is, what people don't realise about child abuse, any form of child abuse, particularly sexual abuse, is that you change the child's perception of something that should be sacred and loving between two consenting adults. You change that perception forever. It changes the way the brain perceives sex, pleasure, danger, the lot. This is trauma. We're not just talking about sex here. And I think because it's sexual abuse and it's a woman and boys are all about boobs and God knows what else, you know, in their teenage years, a 6-year-old
Still a
is
6-year-old.
still a 6-year-old. And really important to say here is that the prefrontal cortex, which is the executive function, analysis, rational thinking, logical thinking, organised thinking, and then obviously the right side is the emotional, the limbic area, that's not even fused at 7. I say this a lot on this episode. It's not even fused at 7. So what that means is that everything that goes into the brain has no closed door. It goes in unfiltered. Remember I said earlier about explicit memory and implicit. This one's been sat there glitching and you've not been able to put the pieces together fully and you've questioned yourself and you've doubted yourself, which is what abuse does. It also makes you abandon yourself. And when we abandon ourselves, we leave part of ourselves behind. We don't trust ourselves. We don't have a sense of grounded reality. And without grounded reality, which is when we talk about gaslighting, when people gaslight you, what happens is you don't feel like you are fully ever present because you know your brain's never able to make sense of anything. And when we disrupt a child's development in whichever form we're talking about, but we're talking about sexual abuse here, it changes their sexual experience forever. The way they fantasize, the way they connect. You can work on those things. But of course, if you've got no one going, oh my God, you're telling us someone sexually abused you and helping you do that at 16, 17, you carry it on your own and you adapt.
One of the first people that I really got to share with, other than my parents and a couple of friends that was there, then got shelved again. But then luckily now, obviously I've got Carla in my life, so then we have got that relationship where I can share stuff. So then she was probably the first person to go, well, actually that's it. And I was like, no, but it's a woman and a man, isn't it? It's a woman doing it to him, but it's still abuse, like what you just said. And then what that does then, it does give you the realness of the situation, that it is still like fucked up.
It's so fucked up. You only got to understand. I mean, I had this conversation with, actually, do you know Yami B?
Well,
Yami B was on this podcast a little while ago and he was abused in children's homes and he's experienced childhood abuse. And we were talking at length on the phone about, you know, the way that we've both experienced some of the similar things around how it disrupts the way that you think about sex. And for a lot of girls, and I'll speak as a girl that's been sexually abused, you can become hypersexual or you can become frigid. And it's the same for boys. So sex becomes frivolous. It means nothing. Or it's a form of self-punishment. So I'm not saying that's for you, but what I'm saying is that everyone I've spoken to that's experienced sexual abuse, that's owned that it's sexual abuse and doesn't try and push it under the carpet and suppress it as though it's no big deal, we all have these same conversations about the fact that it has affected us in some way, shape or form, but we pretend it's fine.
So then the realness of it for me, so how I can relate to what you're saying there is, and the good lady will probably moan at me for saying this like sometime on the way home, I should imagine, but so then for the stuff that the lady asked me to do to her when I was little is now a big part of what I actually, and this is going to sound like horrible,
I know what you're going to say. I know
what I like.
Yeah, you know? Well, that's what it does. That's my whole point.
I like to do.
Yeah.
You know, I like all like levels and sections and whatever you want to call it.
But that's my point.
But then I find, and it wasn't until recently when I shared that with, says maybe that's why I like doing this and I like doing that, and then I got that understanding that maybe it's because it was from a young age, I thought that was what it was all about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, don't forget, boys, and I don't know if she ever touched you or not, but just to give context to boys out there that
No,
have been...
it was more...
She'd get you to do things to her.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah.
So whichever way you look at this, boys that have been sexually abused that are listening to this, whether it's been a man or a woman that's sexually abused them, the point is still the same. All of the boys' nerve endings on the penis are obviously exposed, whereas with girls, a lot of the nerve endings are... I'm giving a bit of a sexual education here,
right.
but the nerve endings are obviously the clitoris and internal.
Yeah, okay.
So if you touch a boy, and I know you weren't touched, she made you do it to her. If you touch a boy, it feels pleasurable. So if you thought it was pleasurable doing what you did, be it that you were being touched or that you're performing sexual acts on a female, if you find that pleasurable, at 6 years old, without any ability to rationalise what's happening, without any filter, your dopamine centre, so this is, for those that don't know, I'll explain it. You've got a dopaminergic system.
Okay.
And the system involves dopamine, obviously, and then other neurotransmitters too. Once you get at the age of 6, the dopamine centre, if you like, excited... So there's almost too much pleasure.
Like a reward.
The reward.
Yeah.
What happens is the receptors very quickly need more.
Okay.
So what happens is with boys that are sexually abused and with girls, we need more of that now. More, until the same thing is no longer pleasurable. So now I've got to take it a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And so it takes away the pleasure and what should be a balanced pleasure, and it becomes more of a drive, but in a very insidious, maladaptive way until you start to understand it and work on it. Again, we spoke about porn earlier and how access to porn really young literally
age.
Depletes the dopamine.
Yeah, it does,
So you end up not being able to retain dopamine. You end up wanting more, desensitized. And so, again, this is a brain damage that we do.
Just to stay on the subject a little bit. So then, with that happening at a young age, could that then potentially be the reason why a young lad might be sexually active at a very young age?
Correct. So it literally changes the course of your future.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, I didn't know that, but I understand it now.
Yeah, and that, again, although that to some boys listening might go, that's all right, I wouldn't have minded.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Because that's fine if you want to think that. But the point is that if you take away the baseline of pleasure, love, connection, that's the key word, connection.
Yeah, that's a big one.
If you take that away from a child, they never, until later life perhaps, get the opportunity to feel what real love and connection is all about. It's all bypassed. It becomes like a drug. And why should you take that away from a child? Why should you make sex be more like a drug for a child? That child now grows up into an adult that can't experience making love or pleasure in the same way. You've literally... And I'm going to swear here, you've literally fucking taken it away from them. Yeah. That's a disgusting thing to do to anyone.
Rubbed it, yeah.
And of course you won't know, and neither will I, because neither of us will ever not have the experience of being sexually abused, and those that are listening are the same. You won't know if that's changed you or not. I can guarantee you it did. It certainly changed me. And it means that sex becomes a really difficult subject. It's never just what it should be. And that's the point. It robs you. So... And I don't mean to make you feel worse, but let's call it what it is. You've had a betrayal trauma where your reality was taken away, your truth was taken away from you, and now you've also got this experience with the babysitter where your natural sexual experience has been robbed as well. That's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
And then, Chris, for those that don't know the rest of the story, you did end up in a young offenders prison at the age of 15.
I did at 15, and it was a revolving door for years and years after that. It was 15 because of a lot of 2-second decisions, but now I've got a bit of a different, not a different understanding, I've got a better understanding. It was a lot to do with my environment and what was accepted, what wasn't accepted. You know, crime was a normal daily part of the family lifestyle. It's what they got up to be able to put food and whatnot on the table. So when I was getting up to stuff, I wasn't really punished for it. It was sort of, and it wasn't glorified in a sense where, you know, but it was. And I suppose that's why I like to be the opposite of that now and not glorify it, try and educate. So I have got something from it. But 15 years old, ended up in the system for a robbery on a post office. Spent a bit of time away then, just over a year. Then he gets back out, stays out for 11 months, and I'm back in on another violent charge. I think that was 3 years. And then he gets back out, gets another violent charge, nearly 4 year, 9 months. Then whilst I'm inside, something bad happens to another inmate who was a bully. So then there was an outside charge for that. That was hot water, sugar and jam, napalm, whatever you want to call it. Took his face off like a pork scratching, because I've never liked bullies. They've been a big part of my life where I've had to deal with them and stuff like that.
So you basically projected all of that anger onto this person when you were on
100%.
But he was a bully anyway.
Yeah, and there was a few instances that happened when we was away. Like there's just a lot in jail when you're young offenders, like bullying, and even in a man's jail. It's not just the young offenders. But I sort of pretty much seen the outcome of bullying on the darker side, and that started in the young offenders when I was young, and that's like seeing one of your friends that you had dinner with the night before, and then all of a sudden there's all sorts around his pad and he's hanging from a part in his cell because he's getting bullied. So I've seen the dark side of bullying. I've seen them open up parts of their bodies and stuff like that, and just be happy with bleeding out, and then they just get found in the morning because they've put all sorts of other tops and bottoms on so the blood doesn't leak, so it leaks out enough, and in the bedding soaks it up, then the clothes soak it up, because they really don't want to be out because of bullies, because this person or these people are bullying a certain people because their mums have got money, so they want their mums to send money that's into them. They've got into debt because they might like chocolate or munchies or smoke burn, and they've got into debt, and they got into that much debt then they're just getting terrorised and bullied. So I made it a big beeline from when I got to jail, and I experienced getting bullied myself, that if I could somehow be a part of the process and nobody else getting bullied in jail. And yeah, fair enough, sometimes I come a little bit unstuck and I'd have to go back, the next day or the next week when I found out where they were working or where I could get to them. But
would you say that you were trying to assert a type of justice?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
Yeah.
I've got loads of stories about fucking kids getting bullied in jail, and it's just like, it's not a nice place anyway. And then when you got
God,
fucking, and half the time when you get to that, there's been a couple of times when I got some big awareness and understanding from a couple of the bullies and whatever's happened. I was in jail with one in Stoke Heath. He's an old travelling lad. He was a bit of a unit. And we had an incident around a pool table. He's got pool balls. I got a tap in the sock, and we end up going at each other. I've ended up a little scar on my chin here. Took him out with the pool balls, shaking on the floor and all that type of stuff. A bit of a story to it. He's backing off. All the staff have got everyone up on the twos, and then they're saying, right, everybody get up to your pads, get on the twos. So everyone's up on the twos, so it's like a Colosseum type of thing. It's just me and him on the landing. But I can see where he's backing off, and I see that the gates are closed behind him, so he's not getting past them gates. So now, as soon as he touches the gates, he's only got 3 pool balls on him. He's only got 3 shots with them. One of them caught me on my cheek because he's chucking them at me. Then he hasn't got nothing in his hands. So then I've up, skipped, jumped, whacked him over the head, a tap in the sock, whacked him again. And then there's obviously blood and everything everywhere. He's shaking on the floor. I did think that I killed him, but I hadn't, thanks be. But then afterwards, we ended up having to work in the gym together. And I got talking to this lad. And he ended up being quite a nice fucking lad. And so how the conversation started, because I went down the gym and I go, we've got a new gym orderly, baby. I said, fucking I hope he's good at cleaning the showers, So they got me dogging, doing everything. And I went there, it's a guy who I fell out with. He couldn't be ours, have any other job. I couldn't have no other job. So I said, right, we'll get you down the gym. And then if anybody fucks about down the gym, then it's one of them, that's how young offenders was. You sort it out. Gym stuff, but if it gets a bit thingy, you have to sort it out in the showers, whoever's fucking about down there. So for fuck's sake, it's this lad. So I've gone, right, look, I've got a bit of a scar on my chin. I says, you got a bit of a scar on your head, it's a bit bigger, like a tennis ball on his head, round circle off the top of a tap. I said, what are we going to do about it? I said, we both can have a good job down here. He can have a bit of a scrap, obviously, but the tap took him out of the game. And he weren't a dickhead. He could have a fight. So then we agreed, let bygones be bygones, whatever, however we said it. And then when I got talking to him, it turned out that at home, his dad pretty much terrorised him all the time. His dad used to fucking slap the shit out of him all the time. He never used to have nothing unless he used to have to take it off of people. And basically, there was a lot of things that had happened to him when he was a kid. So then, sort of, didn't justify why he was bullying people on the landings.
But you got to understand.
I understood how it was, man, and I understood how his family life was. So, so there was a couple of times where I actually came away after the incident, and I actually ended up being friends with that person because I got an awareness and understanding of
Doesn't it just show,
life,
like, even though there was obviously a moment in time where you could have killed him by the sounds of it, once you gave it a little bit of time.
I wanted to, but...
Well, yeah.
At the time.
Yeah, in that moment. But once you gave him a bit of time, you're obviously a naturally empathetic, compassionate person because someone starts to tell you a little bit about their lives. And don't forget, you end up there because you robbed a post office. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. But it's not like you were an evil person. You were being a kid. You did something naughty. You got punishment. And now you're exposed. This is the problem with young offenders, isn't it? Now you're exposed to all sorts of violence.
It's bad.
I mean, you talk about the scar on your chin, but obviously there's an obvious one on your face.
Big
I assume
smile.
that's later on.
Yeah, it is, There's a few scars, but to be fair, it's the ones you don't see, them are the ones that you have to worry about.
That's
the ones
true.
on the face and that. The one on the face, that was... There was a firm doing some county lines on the manor next to mine. I got to find out about the product and the cash that was there. Got some information off a girl. I went there, done what I had to do, tagged the first one at the door with a taser. He's obviously lost his bodily function, so there's a bit of shit, a bit of piss about the place. Ran up the stairs to get the next geezer. I got told that's where the cash and the drugs were. He's tried to bail out the window. As he's bailed out the window, the bags got stuck in the window. He's had to jump down onto the veranda, then get off, obviously, because I'm there doing what I'm doing. When the bags fell from the window down into the bathroom bit, it's obviously full of drugs and cash and all that. There was a substantial amount of cash, tens of thousands of pounds in there, substantial amount of drugs, Class A drugs. I've then got off for 6 days partying, spending money, got loads of best mates, everybody's coming out of the woodwork and all that type of stuff. All the stuff that's just the seasonal people, just there for a season, not for a reason.
Yeah.
And then 6 days later, it goes back to the same manor on the come down, needs to score some bud, goes to see the same girl that gave me the information about these lads doing county lines. They'd been terrorising her for the last 2-3 days, chopping her hair off, terrorising the family, saying, listen, we know it's something to do with Boovy, blah, blah, blah. Got the information out of her that obviously it was me. If I come back on the scene, let them know. When I've gone to pick up the weed, thinking I'm going to score up some cannabis, I've walked into an ambush, basically. Got 3 people from an area all around me. The one over here is looking behind me. So he's letting me know. So he's like looking at me like that, Ella, but he's like that, so I could tell. If I'm looking at you like that, you're either going to think there's a spider behind you or what's going on. You're just like, you're inquisitive. You want to look behind you.
Yeah.
So then as I look behind, seen like a little bit of a flash, and then he's in front of me. Thought he chucked a punch, but he never. He chucked a punch with a blade. And then got told, you've been striped there, Boovy lad. We all know who you are now, coming to our gaff, this, that.
So you've got a physical tag on you.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So then if you turn up anywhere, and to be fair, it's your face, isn't it? So
yeah,
it did bother me for a bit of time, but now I just got to take some. First off, if I was the age these lads were, their early 20s, and somebody rocked up to my door and they were in their early 30s, they would have relieved me of all my cash and all my drugs that I've been grafting for the whole week, and then it's going back down on a train to the northwest somewhere, all the way from bloody Shropshire. Then I would have probably been pissed off myself, and there would have been something bad that has happened. Third off, then I've got to pretty much think that I did halfway get away lightly, because they were on about cutting my throat, chucking some cash down, chucking some drugs down, and it would have been a drug-related death. Because of the life that I was living at the time, Ella, the police would have accepted that drug-related death. You know, I was getting up to what I was getting up to. I was putting myself in some situations and going and relieving certain people of like whatever stuff and stuff like that, and not being bothered about it, just getting on with it. It's either going to be that, a drug overdose, or I was going to end up in jail for a long time. So it would have looked at it a bit, and then they would have just gone, oh yeah, well, it's bound to have happened, and it would have just been another statistic. So I did get off lightly there, yeah. I know.
It's just, I say what a shame, because I'm thinking, you robbed a post office. Again, I'm not saying it's no big deal. What I'm saying is, you robbed a post office. If we look at so many young boys, I said to you in there, didn't I? I know you do some work with men now, and I think it's amazing. And I know you want to start loads of different projects, and you've got so many great ideas, and you're such a wonderful human. And I really believe that you're of such value. But I talk about these boys because you were one of those boys at 15, robbed a post office. And then, like many young boys, you could have become a statistic where the police would have gone, yeah, that makes sense, fine, sign it off. I mean, thank God it was your face and not your throat. Thank God.
Well, there's the same thing that's happening now happened to me when I was a kid. Why I done that? When you look at the like a bit of the bigger picture, we was watching at the time. It would have been New Jack City, Juice, all them type of films, and thinking, oh, that's the way to make money. This is what we got to do. So then, obviously, you go out, and it was put together well for some 15-year-olds. And it's only the same thing what kids are doing now, you know. If the eyes are the window to your soul, and all you're watching is murder, kill, get rich quick, cash under the bed on your phone, then you're putting it in your ears as well, then that's all your body's going to know. It's all you're taught to, you know, you're sort of like, I don't want to use the word groom, but you're conditioned to. You are conditioned. You're right to think that that's right.
And it's important to say here that you have got ADHD as well. Which so have I. It's a superpower. And some people go sometimes, right. The other side to that is that you don't have emotional regulation in the same way. I spoke to you earlier about the right side and the left hemispheres of the brain. Right hemisphere, left hemisphere. When your right hemisphere is emotionally flooded, I always say this, the left kind of goes offline. You lose Wi-Fi. You lose internet. So you can't think rationally, logically, analytically. Don't forget, your brain doesn't fully develop until you're 25 in terms of that executive function. So when you have got ADHD, you're a kid, you're accessing all this information, and now it will be gaming, TikTok, Instagram, whatever they're watching. A lot of what they're seeing is extremely violent. So the repetition is recognition to the brain. You're not applying the full wisdom yet because you're not 25 yet. You're also going offline on the left because you're emotionally flooded, either by excitement, pleasure, or danger. And then what happens is you make these decisions. But the saddest bit is, and we see it a lot with knife crime now, at 15, you are not thinking logically, rationally. You can't fast forward because you haven't got the benefit of long-term thinking. So what happens is you make these decisions, you end up in young offenders, you meet people, you get into situations where you need to kill someone with this pool cue. Okay, you made friends with him, but then that's just the beginning of, you know, again, you're taking your own form of justice on the bullies, and you're doing more violent acts, and you're getting yourself into situations latterly that we've just spoken about where you nearly had your throat cut. And then of course there's all sorts of traumas there for you to digest. At the heart of this, and the heart of every young boy and every young girl that gets into this world, is just a baby that grew up and got themselves into a difficult or bad situation, and everyone's got their reasons why. ADHD we see commonly in boys and now girls, that if the school system doesn't treat them right, if the family system isn't 100% right, if there's some trauma in the history already, then they go out into these situations and make poor decisions, which is very common for young people anyway. They end up in a prison system systemically they're failed at every single point.
And that's how it's set up to be, though.
Yeah.
So really what there needs to be is, there needs to be something before they get to that age, before they're able to go to jail. And I know there's loads of stuff out there, but there needs to be some sort of
direct impact,
realness, direct impact, and lived experience.
Yes.
In the education system somewhere, and I don't mean just at the schools where they've got problems. I mean across
in
the
communities.
Board. Yeah,
because that's what I say this nearly every episode. Community systems, the youth clubs. You know, all of these things, they have gone. We don't have anything. So these boys that are going around stabbing each other, they're not thinking it through. They don't understand there's no soldiers, there's no warriors on the street like you.
That's how you got to go out and you got to let them know.
Yeah.
Instead of glorifying stuff, what you got to do is you got to educate them.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't educate them with just all like, you know, the way that people are doing it. You have to bring realness to the table.
You do.
Sometimes if they're used to watching whatever they're watching on the video screen, and it might be some sort of drama or film or stuff like that, and they're getting something from that. What happens if we can bring a similar type of drama, because it's real life, and somehow you're educating them in a different way? I believe that's where the superpower is. Like, you've got all their agencies and projects and stuff like that might be governments and, you know, people that have gone to university, and I'm not taking nothing away from that, because we need that.
Yeah.
And we need them people there. But then what there needs to be is a co-production between them people and the people that's lived experience, because lived experience is a superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then if all the other bits and bobs that's going on, you know, that have been to university, got the letters and all that, that's a superpower as well. So then what you can do is, when you come together, then that's how you make the superheroes.
Yes.
You know, without being thingy, because they're coming together, and instead of these ones thinking that these ain't good enough, or and sometimes these ones thinking that these know it all, drop the judgment, and they might be able to receive something from someone. Because that's a
good name for a project.
Yeah,
drop the judgment.
Yeah, because well, when there's any judgment there, you can't receive nothing from nobody.
That's brilliant. I mean, it makes, and again, I think there's probably places in the UK that have got that amalgamation of the lived experience.
No, there is loads, but it's just there's not enough.
There's not enough, because we've got to think about, look, we are now at a point in the UK, we know this, we are politically fucked.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You know, Northampton's one of those towns that's got the highest number of potholes. That's just one thing.
Okay.
Which might not sound like a big deal to someone until you realise I drive a Sport Mini, and you feel every single pothole. That's just one problem. And then we could go into the other political problems, but we won't right now, so we'd be here all day.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that with Brad, actually. So I'll leave that for Brad, because he's passionate. So we did a lot of that. And I think the reason that I say this is, whilst the funds are being shifted into things that we could mention but we won't, what about a community centre in each, I don't know, in each borough? You know, just one where
it's funded,
government funded,
where they can go there and they don't have to worry about buying their cans of pop. Don't need to worry about putting money in the.
You don't need
table.
any money.
If they can't get there and they want to come to this, you get taxis, or there's a minibus that picks them up.
Yeah.
Surely, if there is a pump, £100,000, £200,000 each year, eventually they're going to save money, because all them kids that they're not helping are going to end up costing them a fortune in the system anyway.
Absolutely. What did you say earlier about the way that it works? Because obviously you were talking about the petrol or whatever in the vans.
Yeah, so then if you side it all up, if you used to add up the cost of the courts, the court charges, the cost of the wages, the cost of people to put in the court, the cost of all the victim charges, even down to how much it costs to put each inmate in the jail just for 1 year, 1 day, but we'll talk it on a year's basis. Then even to the point of the petrol that might cost you to get you there in the sweatbox. Hundreds of thousands of pounds for one man or one boy. Hundreds of thousands of pounds a year.
So why wouldn't we put that into the community?
Well, why not? You don't need to put it all. If you just take 5% of each amount of money it costs to keep one person in there, and somehow boost it into community projects, so then people that somehow you think, well, it's an idea, but we're not really getting involved with them because it's lived experience. well, what you're doing at the moment is not working because the jails are overcrowded.
Yeah.
The kids are bloody going into the university of crime and then thinking that it is or whatever. Why not have some of these people that have actually been in the system and actually made all those shit decisions?
Yeah.
So maybe these kids don't have to make them.
Well, then someone like you.
You say, well, yeah. There's loads of us out there, but then say like, because then all your shit decisions and can somehow it become a blessing to someone else. You know, so
well, it's what you said to me about the pain for purpose, isn't it?
Yeah, or sorrows to joy. You know, like before, I used to look at all whatever's gone on in the life and that, all the shit that you cause, all the chaos and the carnage, and that's what it was. Loads of bad decisions. But then you can switch it up. You can we call that a big bloody wheelie bin full of sorrows. But then, so how do we switch them sorrows up into joy? Well, what you have to do is you have to educate or be a part, not educate, because that's the wrong word, because I ain't been to university, I ain't done all that.
No, but you are a teacher of the universe,
a
teacher of God.
Or an awareness and understanding teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then if you can take all them sorrows and you can turn it into joy for other people, if you can somehow be a part of the process of them not making them decisions, or maybe not making the decision, but giving them, you know, an idea of where they might lead. And then they might think, well, actually, yeah, I can remember coming and doing talk. I can remember sitting down with this person. I can remember doing this, I can remember doing that. And I don't really want to end up where he led. That's why when I got out, I wanted to be big on getting the 2-second decisions into schools, you know.
So talk a bit about this. You mentioned it because Danny Harkins used the 2-second decision with you.
Because I'm always, a big thing that I say is that like 6 minutes of decisions got me 14 years in jail, and accumulation of 6-minute decisions got me 2 seconds in jail. Do not let a 2-second decision somehow take 2 seconds and it take you sometimes a day, a week, a month, a year. Fucking hell, my mum and dad haven't spoke to me for a decade. It was a 2-second decision to have the argument with my dad at the door.
Yeah.
And that's where then it all stemmed on from whatever, but it was from a 2-second decision. You know, the 2-second decision got me 4 or 5 for the other years. When really, when the lad got hot waters in jail, the truth of it is it was a 2-second decision that I made there, but then that decision then, a thought turns into an action turns into a direction.
Yeah.
So if you have the shit fucking thought at the start, it's going to turn into a pretty crazy action, and before you know it, the direction's chaos and carnage.
And then it becomes an identity.
Yeah.
And then
that's
you carry.
What happens.
Yeah.
But then how do you switch the identity up? And so maybe, well, I don't know, but this is what I try to do it. Is try to pull back them 2-second decisions. And out of I pulled them back, I tried to turn them into a lesson and awareness and understanding and education to take some power back from it. So yeah, you took my life here. No, I took it because I made the decision. But yeah, you got all them decisions, and yeah, a lot of things happen. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of carnage. People hurt you, blah blah, and all that type of stuff. But then I want to be a part of the process of trying to make fucking helping other people. You know, I might have got some pretty shit chapters in my book so far. And I'm not on about one I'm writing, I'm on about a life book. But the thing is, if you can somehow share them shit chapters, it can maybe be a part of somebody else having a better ending or a better chapter. And that's what it's all about.
And that because when you're sharing it now, I mean, obviously you are a man of Christianity now.
I am.
And you believe in God, and you've sort of lived your life according to the Bible, really. But I know some people are put off by that because they're like, oh, God. But
we all fall short of the glory of God. Do you know what that means? We can all fuck up every now and then.
Yeah, that's right.
He's in the business of forgiving.
Yeah.
So he's not in the business of... He didn't come down to save all the people that was behaving and not making bad decisions. He come down to 6 with tax collectors, prostitutes, but amongst the sinners.
Yeah.
So I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But and the truth is that like the way you think now, and this is why I keep saying, you know, what I was saying to you earlier about the babysitter and the betrayals and all of this stuff and how it changes us and how it changes.
I'm actually still thinking about that whilst I'm talking to you.
Yeah, I thought you were, you know.
Yeah,
there was parts of me thinking we probably didn't close that up
No, we did, but that's just me as a person.
It's just stayed there.
It's just
that's ADHD
there.
though, isn't it? You can be speaking and thinking at the same time. That happens to me all the time. But the point is that yes, that did change the course of your reality. But, and this is a big but for those listening as well as you, and I know you already know this because you're living it, you can change. You can find God or reframe, reprogram your brain. That's what I'm in the business of. This is what I do with people. And okay, there's the odd person every now and then that I would say is very difficult to help. But largely speaking, people want to reprogram. They want to find answers. They want to find solutions. They want to show their brain a different way of being. And they want to experience that, not just as a thought, but as a feeling, that heart-mind coherence. They want to feel different. They want to feel loved. They want to feel connected. Some of those things were taken away from you. And I think from your relationship with God, you have been able to feel connected. You have been able to feel love. And actually, I think from all accounts, there's been parts of you that have been hugely aware of darkness. And there's probably been some decisions made, be it with your family or be it in prison itself or outside of prison, where you've become the darkness. So, but this is why I said at the beginning to go and maybe watch James's episode and Terry's episode to see more of that side of you if people want to. And maybe a lot of the people watching this will have already watched those episodes.
That's part of the story.
It's part of the story. But the reason that it's important to highlight that, even though we won't go through every detail, because I want people to see this side of you, this is the present you, is that you literally can recollaborate your entire system.
Yeah, you can.
But I think going back to the cellular software, I think even just talking about the babysitter earlier, is activated an old wound. So we have to be aware of when those wounds are activated. We have to be aware of making sure that you understand that the nervous system is, I've said it before, the 95% of you, the brain-body system, we call it the soma.
Okay.
So the brain-body system, 95%, once it's activated, once that cellular software is activated, it's reminding the brain that there's a threat or that there's a grief or that there's a loss. And it's reminding you that there was a part of you that was never seen, heard or respected. And I think that's quite painful because although it does disrupt the system. And I'm wondering now, because you said it would have been on your mind, whether there is a sense of grief and loss for that little boy. And not just with the babysitter, but just that whole paranoia, I would say instinct. Do you feel that? Do you feel that there's a bit of grief and loss for him?
Yeah. There is definitely.
Because you do wonder whether life would have been different. I mean, we can't go back and change it.
I think life would have been maybe, wouldn't have took a different direction, but it would have given me more peace if there was some truth at the table rather than lies or bullshit. And I do feel like a little bit of me, not a little bit of me, a big part of a little boy was took away from him on that day. But I said earlier that I hadn't shared it, but I forgot. So one of our spaces that we hold at the talking circle, one of our spaces that we hold is a talking circle because we've got our men's mental health company called The Breath of Life. We create safe spaces for men. And there was a share at one of the very first talking circles that we put together. And it was a share about abuse of someone when he was a kid. And this was at the hands of a man. And he had never ever spoke to it before because he didn't want to say another man had done this and done that to him. And then I literally seen it happen. You had a person here to say he got 15 men around the table. So the lad here was strong enough and brave enough and knew that he felt the vibe at the table. There's no judgment, there's no partiality, there's no resentment. It's like Fight Club. You share what you want to share at the table. What goes on at the table stays at the table. But instead of a black eye, you're going to leave maybe healing a little bit. Yeah. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit, there is rules, and not rules, but certain things we stick by. So then I seen him do his share. And then for me sharing a couple more. And the next thing a lad here said, well, actually, there was something that happened to me when I was little. And then it gets through a couple of men. And on that one night, there was 4 men, and one of them was me, that actually went, I had a babysitter. But then what I had the understanding of then, I know I've gone a little bit off on one because that would be like my brain work and other things, and just want to talk a little bit more about it. Give me the awareness that when you can bring men together like that, and you're all there, and there is no judgment, there's no partiality, there's no resentment out there, that sometimes them other three lads that shared around that table, I would have never seen them in normal day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have had them in my social circle. But somehow, them are the three men that sort of, they don't know exactly how I was feeling, but they got a bigger awareness than anybody else around the table, because that happened to them. So then that goes back to me what I said before about the whole time you're judging someone, then you can't receive nothing.
Yes.
You know, so
you're blocking it.
Yeah, you're blocking it. Obviously, some people, you know, it's all on my page is no judgment. There's certain things. If you've done that, then you're gonna get judged, mate, for whatever reasons. You know,
there's extremes.
Yeah, that's and thank you. I needed that word. Thank you before something else come out my mouth. Extremes. So then there's extremes, and you sit over there with that judgment because it was extreme. But then, if I would have come in, if I would have sat down at that table and I would have had any judgment between me and the lads at the table, then I wouldn't have been able to receive nothing from them.
Yeah.
And then, so I did share it there. I shared it here. And I did manage to, obviously, I've shared it with Carla in there because I think she's better for her to have a better understanding about sometimes the stuff in my head and that. But I suppose it did take a little bit off me, yeah.
I think the thing is to understand that what you said there was four of you all together around this table. The statistics say, up-to-date statistics say, it's 1 in 4 people have been abused sexually as a child. I actually think it's much higher.
Yeah, because some of them won't even come forward because of shame and guilt.
Especially men.
Yeah, shame's a big one.
Shame is a big one. Guilt and shame will do more damage to you than the truth ever will, because it's insidious, it's poisonous. And what I mean by that is when we're in a state of guilt and shame, we're suppressed. And I told you about the book earlier, The Body Keeps the Score. When we suppress emotion,
put it down,
I know it's already, your fine lady's already got it in a to-do list. But, you know, when we are suppressing emotion, we are literally holding it in the body. So the body keeps the score. And what I mean by that is this. You have all sorts of cells. I said there's 50 trillion, some of which are bacteria cells. And we know, for example, to look after our cells, we should be eating well, we should be exercising, getting enough sleep. But the emotions are crucial, because if you don't detox emotion, either by speaking it out, by breathing it out, by exercising, whatever it is, it collects. Toxins collect. And then what happens is the more toxins you have in your system, the more cortisol, the more adrenaline, so fight-flight mode, you are like eroding away at all the positive cells. And what I mean by that is, say you've got precancerous cells floating around, you need to be able to have a healthy immune system to be able to fight it. And sometimes those cells will cluster and you will get, you know, lumps or tumours, and because you're reasonably healthy, you'll fight it off. But if there's loads of toxins floating around, and again, emotions suppressed can turn into toxins in the body. It can disrupt the gut, the microbiome. The microbiome, which is the healthy bacteria in your gut, is probably the most important thing for overall health ever. We're learning more and more about it now. And it's also linked to, you know, the mind inflammation and neurodiversity, all sorts. If you are not expressing emotion in a healthy way, you are more likely to have disease. Now, I can't remember if it's The Body Keeps the Score or another book, but I remember reading this, so I'm going to share the story. There was like a clinical trial done on smokers. And they looked at smokers that were of a certain age, and they looked at those that had diseases like COPD and cancer, and they looked at those smokers that didn't, of the same sort of age group. The ones that had diseases were found to be the ones that had suppressed emotions. So I'm not saying that there aren't carcinogens in cigarettes but the point is that the ones that were stressed, emotionally suppressed, were the ones that were more likely to trigger heart disease, cancer, COPD, all of these things. So our emotions are so important. When we talk about emotions, we're not talking about the fluffy stuff. We're talking about men being able to just own who they are, the good, the bad and the ugly.
Yeah,
that includes the shame and the guilt.
Yeah, it does.
Because let me tell you something, as a survivor of sexual abuse myself, and it was intrafamilial, so it was obviously layered with it being in the family. The point is this: it was never your fault. Even if you got pleasure from the abuse, it was never your fault that someone decided to do that to you. Why the fuck are you holding guilt and shame? You're 6 years old when this is happening to you. You did nothing wrong. You did what you were told, which is what kids are supposed to do, isn't it? We're taught, do as you're told. So, especially the time when we grew up, you know, that's what happened.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So now, and also back then, kids didn't always have words. So we didn't call things penis, vagina, boobs. We might have used pleasant words.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this happened to you, but I actually saw this on an Instagram post the other day where there was a lady that told a teacher that this is years ago.
Put cotton wool around it, not literally, but to make it seem like it's more of a game.
Exactly. Yeah. So this little girl tells a teacher, this is an Instagram post I saw just yesterday, she says this to a teacher, it's a few years ago, that her dad used to lick her cookie. And the teacher went, oh, that's nice. But what she didn't get what the child was trying. Yeah. So I say that because we need to remember that the way this stuff is done, it's made to look like to the child that it's fun or that it's nice or that it's whatever. And we have to be real and say, if someone is grooming you, if someone is making you play games like that, or if you know someone that's happened to, that's not their shame and it's not their guilt. But also, when you say, I guess I felt better talking about it, it's not just about talking about it, it's about understanding it. Talking is maybe the first part of that. But understanding the way your brain develops, the way it affects the dopaminergic system, the way it affects your perception of sex, connection, love, the way it affects your perception of yourself, the way it makes the child self-abandon, the way the child might be gaslit, the way the child might have their reality distorted, all of those things really affect a person's life. So that's why talking is important. It's not just about talking, it's about understanding.
I totally agree with you there, Ella, because I believe it's 2026 now and we need to start bringing 2 superpowers to the table, and that's your thoughts and your feelings.
Yeah.
You know, it's all right for us as men. You know, what happens is when we've got certain thoughts and feelings, we revert back into our granddad. Yeah. So what we say is, I'm okay. It's all right, there's nothing wrong with me. Or, no, I don't really want to talk about it. Or, I'll have a cup of tea because there's 20 sugars in it. Or, I'll have some fresh air, which, you know, certain things do help. The sugar will help a little bit because it's sugar. Fresh air will help. But really, the superpower is to be able to, and not just on the abuse side, just in general, is to be able to have brothers around you, not just people. But to be able to have, from a man's perspective, you know, of men helping men and letting men know it's okay not to be okay. Yeah. And letting men know that it is all right to fucking have a cry. It is all right to say I'm struggling. It is all right to go up to your brother when he's struggling, get him in an headlock, do whatever you want to do, give him a hug and say, I got you, bro, man. It's not about all this, you know, all the other stuff. Which, there's strengths come in, I believe, in different levels. If your house gets burgled and you happen to catch a burglar, you might have to show strength there. Yeah. He might end up at the police station. He might end up on the missing list. That's a good strength to have. Yeah. If somebody comes and is slapping around one of your family members, i.e. it's your sister, your mum, your aunt, your nan, your bloody, or, you know, one of the girls that you know in your life, and he needs a little slap and all the rest of it, that's a good strength to have. But then that's just a one strength. Yeah. So then what happens if then you find another strength where you're letting people know it's all right not to be okay. You know, it's okay to fucking be saying I'm struggling. It's okay to say I fucking can't deal with this at the moment. Instead of putting a mask on that says I can deal with it, take the mask off. Let people see the real story. Because when they get to see the real story, I believe that's where the real change is going to happen.
It's so true. And the other thing to say there, and I've, you know, working with a lot of men over the years, sometimes men are really good at doing that stuff, like putting an arm around and say, I've got you, I love you, I need you, all of that stuff. But sometimes men struggle to really see, because men are very solution focused.
Okay.
Right? So men would be like, right, let's do this. Let's go for a run. Let's go to the gym. Let's go and have a coffee together, right? Which is all good. It's amazing, actually. And I don't want to knock any of that. Sometimes men will jump in. Or men will go, I don't know, they'll have a spliff together. All of this stuff, right? But sometimes men that really struggle to talk and really struggle to be real need you to see them. So they don't necessarily, and I believe this because of some of the conversations I'd had, they don't necessarily need you to find the solution. They just need you to go, actually, sometimes it's worse than what we're imagining. Sometimes even when you're telling us how you feel, we know it's worse than what you're saying. We know that you feel like there's no end to this. We know that you want to take your life. We're not here to try and stop you doing anything you want to do, but what we're saying is we see it, and like, don't ever think that we don't. Because the other thing that we all do as human beings is we go, oh, I know how you feel, because when I was abused, or when I was in prison, or when and we try and relate.
Yeah.
And sometimes what we need to do is, and I'm guilty of doing that as well, by the way. Sometimes what we need to do is we need to just go, this is not about me, it's about you.
Yes, 100%.
I want you to know that I'm hearing and seeing you.
Yeah.
It's not about anybody else.
2 ears, 1 mouth for a reason.
Right.
Sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. And that's sometimes what, because we are naturally helpers and fixers and pleasers, and we just want them to know that we get it. But actually, do we get it? Because going back to the subjective lens, everyone's reality is different.
Everyone's truth is different.
Everyone's truth is different. So we mustn't try too hard to relate all the time. Sometimes we just need to go, look, you say exactly what you want to say. I ain't here to fix. I'm just here to let you be.
This is why at our spaces, that's why we say it starts with, there's no judgment, there's no partiality, there's no resentment. That's how we like it. If there is no judgment, you can come and share whatever, as long as it's certain things, obviously, that ain't going to go on. They won't be in the group.
Yeah.
But that's where it needs to start. If people think you can get judged too quickly for saying those things, that I believe, not in general, I'm not putting that out to everybody out there, because there is people, but they believe that they're going to get judged on speaking about their feelings.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. I've done it before, Ella. I've shared stuff with certain people, and later on down the line, it gets used as a blackmail token.
That's right.
Because you've gone and you've shared something that you thought was safe to share.
It's been turned against you.
It's been turned against you. So then what you have to do, you have to find the right table to share at.
That's right.
Because what that done to me then is, you pull back and all your thoughts and your feelings go in a box. The box goes on a shelf, and I can get to the thoughts and feelings, and that's my safe space, that shelf up there, because I'm not letting nobody know what's going on in my mind or in my heart, because it's been used against me before. But then I got the understanding, like what you said earlier, is that all that does is illnesses, or as I like to call it, darkness. It puts a darkness inside you. The only way to get rid of the darkness, and the terminology that I use, is to make a space for the light.
Yes.
So then is to talk.
Yeah, you have to release.
Yeah, release.
Release and detox. And also,
maybe not just talking, because I've got the awareness here now that there's umpteen things you can do. Yeah. I've always been big on talking, but then I have to come in here and there's this, like a little Swiss Army knife for healing, which I really massively appreciate and respect. But I've always been like not always, but because of experiences that I've had, and realised when I felt I couldn't talk about stuff, and I understand what that done to me as a person, I didn't want that to be the same way for anybody else.
I had is a bit of a local celeb, I suppose. Okay. He's called Big Nick Collins. I don't know if you've ever come across Big Nick. He's from Northampton, and recently, maybe 2 episodes ago, God bless her, he's partner of 18 years.
Oh, no, I watched it.
Yeah, aneurysm.
I watched it. I was bloody...
I know, he was so brave in that episode. God bless him.
I know what you're on about. Me and Carla was talking about it the other day.
He's an incredible human being, Nick is. God bless him. And Beth was beautiful as well. And he'd come here, and again, Nick's like 6'6", gold teeth.
Yeah, he was a bit of a boy. Yeah.
Bit of a boy. Yeah. And he came and had hypnotherapy he didn't really want to talk because he kind of knew a lot, but he wanted to understand his brain and he wanted to be able to go into his mind. So he used hypnotherapy with me and we worked. He's told this story on Liam Tufts and he's told a bit of it here. He was abused as a child and he just needed to understand. So we used hypnotherapy with Nick. And then obviously I've told you about the method neuroelectrics, which is inspired by things like EMDR, hypnotherapy, psychoanalysis, somatic experiencing. The point being is, for those that don't want to talk, and I know you talk about Craig earlier, there are ways of detoxing your system and without having to say a word. But predominantly speaking, you've got to be able to release. Okay. And I think talking is one of the most obvious ways to do that and the easiest ways to do that. The other thing I'll say here, and I know you've got a history of addiction, which again, you've gone into great detail with on other podcasts, but addiction is just escapism. It's just escaping the dark, but you're not going to the light. You're going to more dark with addiction.
You don't have to deal with nothing, do you?
That's right.
When you're in addiction, the way you have to deal with the funds to be able to get it, and if you're using a lot of whatever product, then you need to get a lot of funds. But then, basically, it numbs everything. That I'm not trying to justify any type of addiction.
No, but that's what it does.
You've got stuff going on,
yeah,
and your head's like a million miles an hour, and then you forget about it by taking a substance, and then what happens then, because of all the chaos and carnage that you cause while she was taking the substance, that then just end up with a big backlog. It's just chaos and carnage that you can tap in every time and just justify what you're doing.
Which again becomes the identity. Which again we have to work on once we realise what we're doing and where we're at. And I think the thing is as well with that, and I'm going to say this because I think it's really interesting, there's two things here that come straight to mind. I mentioned the dopaminergic system before when we talked about the babysitter, but also you've got ADHD. Now with ADHD and complex PTSD, they do mirror each other almost exactly. There's a couple of neurobiological differences, but other than that, they are pretty much the same thing. In fact, to the point where CPTSD, complex PTSD, is being seen as a bit of a neurodivergence now. I mentioned Gabor Mate off screen to you earlier, who speaks about trauma and neurodivergence is pretty much the same thing. Anyway, long story short, dopaminergic system. When we are abused as children, I mentioned earlier that it affects the pleasure centre. Because we now need to seek more pleasure, and sex become a bit like a drug. So when the person is developing, they might not only develop one addictive behaviour. If you mess around with someone's dopaminergic system, their dopamine, if you mess around with that when they're a kid by introducing them to pleasure in the wrong way, they are likely to have addictive behaviours growing up. So even when you tell that story and people go, oh yeah, but it was a woman, whoa, I'd love that. Yeah, but would you love to be an addict as an adult? Would you love to lose connection as an adult? Would you love to be able to carry that shame and guilt for the rest of your life? Would you love to think about how fucked up your relationships might be as a result of it? So whatever your opinion is of a female sexually abusing a boy, trust me, there are massive consequences. And so I say that because yes, we need to talk or release our emotions some way, shape or form, because we do end up carrying illness, disease, darkness. When we're in that space, we are likely to try and escape through sex, through drugs, through alcohol. Yeah, it's all
escapism, isn't it?
Yeah, and also with ADHD and trauma is the dopaminergic system as well. We metabolize dopamine so quick. What's one way of filling up your dopamine system? Risk. Yeah. So we become risky. We might take chances with criminal activity. All of those things I'm not blaming the sexual abuse for, but what I'm saying is if you look at trauma and ADHD, they're all linked. So what I'm saying to you today, and I'm trying to get across really importantly, is when we look at prisons, we're going to see trauma, we're going to see ADHD, probably autism, and they're all linked. So going back to the systemic issues in schools, communities, prison systems, we really need to reform it entirely. We're at a terrible, terrible, crucial point, particularly in the UK, but across the world, where we're seeing homicides go up, knife crime go up, drug use go up. We've got to understand. And this is what I said at the beginning of this episode. This is why I want to talk to the people that have had the experiences, the real life warriors, the ones that can bring the real deal to the table. Because yes, you need to be working with men for sure.
Yeah.
But we do need to have that look at young boys and young girls. How are we helping them? Because we want to stop them before they rob the post office. Do you see what I'm saying?
This is what that was one of our things when we first put Breath of Life together. Like we had like a little brainstorm of what we like to get up to, where we see it going in 5 years, how many years, and all that type of stuff. And one thing that come up on a lot of the bits of paper was they want to be able to give back to the younger generation.
Yeah.
And then, because we believe if you can somehow get through to the younger generation, and everybody says, oh, well, it's men's mental health. What about the women? What about the women? Well, this is what I say about that. Behind every man that has got some sort of mental health going on, there's usually a wife, there's usually a girlfriend, a mum, a sister, an auntie at home somewhere that is suffering because they're suffering.
Yeah.
If you can somehow be a part of the process of, giving them some awareness and understanding and being there and all that, then you're not just helping them, you're helping the whole
system.
The system. And then it was a big passion to help the kids, because then by helping the kids, what it would do then is maybe they wouldn't end up at a talking circle, they wouldn't end up having to go there, not because they won't suffer with mental health, because mental health's out there and it's going fucking nowhere, but because they'd have a better understanding about it.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing. And then we managed to get into, so if there's like a pecking order of schools in Telford, top of the pecking order is the one called Thomas Telford. And it's like a prestige school. I've got a few injuries, so I sometimes struggle with P's and F's and S's because I've got a few injuries. But then it's quite a prestige school. And so then they've got like football academy kids there, drama kids. A lot of people want their kids to go to school from all around different parts of the country. And they invited us in to do a talk about mental health to their year 6 and 11s. So we've gone in there and we've got people from different sections. So there's myself from a like lived experience 2-second type of vibe. And then we had one of the lads who's a professional boxer, so he'd be able to hit the sports people. Then we had another gentleman who's a part of Breath of Life. It comes to everything. It's an amazing part. But he self-publishes books and does a diary for the Iron Bridge, which is quite a big one. Then we had another lad there from a young age that does a bit of gaming and all that type of stuff. And then we obviously had the compare, whatever it's called, introduced us, I don't know the right words, but it went amazing. And then at the end, we was all like, did we get through to any of them? Did we do enough? But then the teachers came up and they said, you know what, that is the best year 6 assembly, so year 6-1, I think they're called. So it's like the last year, some of them 16, 17, all that type of stuff. Saying that's one of the best assemblies that they had. But the idea of that was, we got asked to go in there, but that was one of our passions from the start. So where this is getting to is, that is where not the solution, but that is where you can maybe stop something going on further off later on in life.
Yeah, you're putting the brakes on. Before they speed ahead, that 2-second thing you're talking about, you're putting the brakes on. You're teaching them to go, hang on a minute. Like, the problem is, as you say, violence is often glorified. You know, as a young boy, we're or girl, we're really seduced by certain things. I think because boys are naturally, innately hunters, they're seduced by the sort of more, I guess, violent stuff. It's just natural. But we need to put like you say, we need to put the reality on that. And that's what you're doing. But you're also, and I know that women need to hear men's perspectives because it's so easy for us all to take things personally in life. You talked about the system, that the mothers, the sisters, the girlfriends, and let's face it, the whole community. We often misunderstand each other as women and men. And I think if we're seeing people kind of turning their lives around, but also being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to not just be vulnerable, but be powerfully vulnerable. In other words, you're a man's man. You're a strong man. You're also a man that can take care of his wife or his girlfriend. The women in the community, you're a warrior in every sense, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, we need men and we need women. We need masculine, we need feminine. And we need men to go into the schools as well and teach boys that. Like, don't be afraid to be a real man. Like, own your masculinity, but be aware of the risks that you're taking if you go that one step too far. And I think what you're doing, probably without realising, on every podcast, when you go into a school, when you do your Breath of Life project, when you do any other projects, this is the beautiful thing about what you're doing, right? You'll never see the results of all of it.
Sowing seeds.
Yeah, you're sowing seeds. The pay it forward thing, where you have one conversation or one person listens or whatever it is, and they quote something you've said or they paraphrase something you've said to somebody else. And these moments keep getting passed on and on. The energy of that, God, whatever you want to call it, the light, give it to God. So the energy of that is so profound. Never ever, and that's why I said to you earlier, own the pride. Never ever doubt the power of the word, of the energy, of the presence, because you are doing things that you cannot see. And I think that's really important to remember.
Well, I think okay, I'm going to get a little bit godly on the situation. Okay?
Let's go there.
So then in the Bible, there's God asks a lot of people to do a lot of things. So, for instance, Noah, he was an ambassador for mental health. He had to go get 2 and 2 of each animal. He had to build an ark. There was a flood coming. Then all these people have mixed up because he's building the ark. He's got to fight all these people. He had a right nightmare. God has asked him to do loads. Then in other things, there's like, God's asking a lot of people to do a lot of things, and some of them things are pretty crazy things. So then I was struggling with this because then I was spinning a few plates and I still felt like I wasn't giving back. So it's relating to what you just said, so I really appreciate what you just said. So then I was spinning a lot of plates and I felt like I still wasn't giving back. So it was making me feel a bit shitty. So I went to one of my spaces. When I say spaces, it's a bench in the wood and where I walk my dogs. So it's not like a comfy room and all that type of stuff, just a bench in the woods. So I sat there because that's my quiet place. It says in scripture, find your quiet place and speak to the big man if you need to. So I've done it. And I went, fucking hell, man, what is it you want me to do? He says, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And I still don't feel like I'm doing enough. He didn't come down with a big white beard, a cloak on, with 20 horses and, on a chariot and all that. But I just felt his words. And it says, have faith, my child, go out there and sow the seeds. So I was like, I'm sure that would be in the Bible somewhere. I just had a feeling that it was in the Bible, and it was in the Bible. And he asked the one person to do one thing, and it's a seed sower. He says, don't ask him to go and tend to the sheep. Doesn't ask him to tend to sheep, build a house, and then build a bridge, and then bring all the people to the house and do all that. Don't ask him to do loads of things. The seed sower, he has to do one thing. And then it come to me. That's all he wants me to do.
Yeah.
Just go out there and sow seeds. Just because you're scattering the seeds doesn't mean that you're going to see the fruition. You're going to see the tree and the fruit and all the rest of it.
That's right.
So and then that brought me peace. Because I know all you got to just do is just go out there and just sow seeds.
What an amazing way to bring your story to a close.
Okay.
Because truthfully, and I know we didn't cover all the stuff about, prison life and all of that. Because actually, as I said to you before, what I'm really interested in is what your offerings are as a result of that. And I know that some of the other podcasts are more interested in the story before now.
It's got to be darkness.
You've got to have the darkness and you've got to have the light. And your offering, you've got to. And that's why I highly recommend, because we know who the best people are at that. That's your likes of James English and Terry and all the others that are out there.
James
Liam's
amazing.
I know you haven't been on Liam's, but Liam does do a good job of highlighting men's issues through.
Yeah, he does. He's an amazing guy.
And Dodge does the same. They're all doing that work. And I think what we've had from you today is truth.
That's what I wanted to bring. Which
you have. You've made it deeply personal. You've shared a lot more about a very recent revelation in your own life. But you've also shared that you've worked through it. You didn't just go off and do what you wanted to do and fall into the darkness and hurt someone and make them pay and displace your pain onto them. What you did is you had a conversation with Danny Harkins and you made a different decision as a result.
Oh, Danny helped me out.
Oh, Danny helped you out. Good old Danny. And
he's a great guy.
You made the right decisions and you've metabolized it and you've understood it and you've spoken about sexual abuse and you've spoken about how that, how opening up in front of other men was useful. we've finished with the sowing of the seeds. And I think, do you know what? If someone hasn't listened to this and gone, there is something I can take from that,
I hope so.
then strike me down.
One word, one person, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It really is.
And I tell you, I mean, for the people listening to this, I mean, it's going to be maybe 6 weeks before this one comes out. And we are in the middle of a heat wave.
Yeah.
Quite a severe one.
Yeah.
And you've travelled with Carla all the way from Telford.
Yeah, my little sidekick.
A little sidekick, gorgeous little sidekick. And you have been here on a beautiful hot day when you could have been out doing anything. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me down, and like, for any of the people that have done podcasts before, they know what's going to happen now on the journey home, or when you stop off for food, you're there and you go, did I say too much? Should I have shared that? And that's what always goes through your head.
Yeah.
But then you just took any doubt away from that. And it is, and I know I totally agree. It is about just getting through to that one person and instilling some hope, or just instilling not just hope, just some awareness that maybe there might not be the only person that's felt that way.
Yeah.
Or, so yeah, it's been a great podcast.
I tell you, you have gifted us all today, and I promise you.
Thank you.
Like, you've got nothing to worry about.
Yeah, but it's just a natural thing to do.
I know.
Isn't it?
I promise you've got nothing to worry about because all you've done is gifted us.
Yeah,
you've not spoken out of turn. You've been humble. You've been honest. You've been absolutely open. And I think I mean, I've had some beautiful people on, and you're one of them. And you've got nothing but, again, carry that pride. Carry that pride, because you should be proud of yourself today.
Absolute angel. Thank you, Ella.
Oh, thank you. That really was lovely.